Greetings from yesterday. I don't know why my arm is all the way back here. At the moment I make money in a weird kind of way, making and editing videos and then posting them online. That's a sort of strange way of making money. And it definitely isn't what I thought I'd be doing when I was younger, although to be completely honest with you, when I was younger, I had no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up. And now that I am grown up, I still don't really know. I do enjoy this though. And it's something I think about a lot. What are my next steps in life? What are the next things I want to try? What do I need to do to make sure that I am financially secure? And that's never been an easy question to answer. My attitude has always been to just try lots of different things. And I have tried a lot of different things. Recently, I was with a friend of mine and we were both listing all the jobs we'd had between us, and I realised it was a bloody long list. So today I thought I'd go through all the jobs on my CV. And I know what you're thinking, John, you've not even done 10 daily videos and you're already scraping the bottom of the barrel. But it's my channel and I'll do what the bloody hell I want. My first job is actually a relatively common first job. There'll be people watching this that had the same first job as me. When I was about 11 or 12 years old, I got a paper round in my village. Although, I'll be completely honest with you, it makes it sound like I'm more hardworking than I actually was, because when you think of paper rounds, you think of people waking up early and delivering papers before they go to school. But I delivered an evening edition of a newspaper, so I got to deliver those papers after school. And it was a pretty cushy job, and I technically had 2 paper routes, and I was making about £15 a week from that, or £60 a month, which for a 12-year-old is a lot of money. Because I'm 12, what on earth do I have to spend money on? The gig was so good that I pretty much did it until I was 16, 17 years old. In other words, I delivered the Cambridge Evening News for half a decade. I started earning money young, but I was greedy. It wasn't enough. Around the age of 12 or 13, I decided that I needed to earn more money because I wanted to buy more PlayStation 2 games. So my friend Simon and I hatched a plan one day whilst in a DT lesson. We decided that we were going to wash cars. Despite neither of us having any experience washing cars, or a client base to wash the cars of. But we were committed to the idea, so we went to the shop, we bought buckets, we bought sponges, we bought chamois, and we bought car shampoo, and we walked round our local village, knocking on people's doors and asking them if we could wash their car. Now, of course, most people said no, because we were 13-year-olds. Most people didn't trust us to wash their car, but a couple of people saw us too and thought, yeah, I'll give them a go, and we would wash their car, I think for about £5 a car. We probably should have paid some of the car owners for what we did to their cars, covered them in smears, but you know, people took pity on us, 2 13-year-old boys knocking on doors trying to wash cars. So that was my second job, and that on top of my paper round at the time made me a pretty rich boy. More PlayStation 2 games basically. But I was greedy and that wasn't enough. So as I mentioned a couple of videos back, I did my Red Cross babysitting qualification. I became qualified by the Red Cross to babysit, which to be honest with you didn't really mean a lot. It meant I could do, you know, first aid if a child fell ill, but it also meant that I could probably charge a bit more because I was Red Cross qualified. And I became a babysitter. So I was babysitting, I was cleaning cars, and I was doing the paper round. Although I'll be honest with you, I didn't clean cars that much. That was sort of a blip. And that was probably around the age of 15. So by the age of 15, I was feeling pretty flush. But then I turned 16 and I was basically eligible for my first proper job. I'm not a kid anymore. I can't be cycling around delivering papers. It's time I do something proper. So I got some seasonal work at M&S as a shelf stacker. A pretty bog standard route so far, paper round to shelf stacker. I think that's like the most generic route that most people take when it comes to career. And I didn't enjoy my time at M&S because I got paid in cash and someone once stole all of the money I'd earned over a 2-week period. And considering this was my first proper job and I was trying to save up money to buy my family Christmas presents, I'm still a bit bitter about it. M&S, you still owe me. Fortunately, it was only seasonal work, so I shoved M&S to the side and I was getting ready to move on to bigger and better things. I became an employee at Morrison's. Still shelf stacking, but this time on a permanent contract. I was indispensable, kind of. I mean, I only really worked weekends because I was still at sixth form, but hey, at those weekends, I was indispensable. And actually, over the years, I worked at Morrison's on and off, especially when I was at sixth form and then went travelling. And eventually, I got another job working on the punts in Cambridge. Now, if you've not been to Cambridge or anywhere else that they've got punts, they're basically these long, flat-bottom boats that you push along with a stick. And in Cambridge, they actually go along the River Cam, which goes past all of the university colleges. Not all of them, actually, only 7 of them. And it's quite common for tourists in Cambridge to go on these boats and have a tour along the river and learn about those colleges. Now, I did this in between terms at university, so I did this whilst at university to help fund my education, and by education I mean my nights out. But one term I found that I'd been on one too many nights out, and I needed to fix the damage done to my bank account, so I got seasonal work again. Once again, it was a Christmas job, but this time it was at the Disney Store. That's right, I was a Disney Store shelf stacker, or as they like to call me, a cast member. Not gonna lie, this was one of the worst jobs, mostly because I was working there over Christmas and they had a soundtrack of 5 Christmas songs that they played on repeat. 5. Also, no offense to Disney Store staff, that is hard to say, Disney Store staff. No offense to Disney Store staff, but some of you are a little strange. Strange is unfair, but my knowledge of Disney films could not keep up with theirs. Now, all of these jobs were most people's basic first jobs. None of them amounted to a career, but when I left university, it was time that I started thinking about what I wanted to do as a career. But I didn't do that. I went on a jobs board, applied for a job, and got the job, even though I didn't know what the job was. I ended up working for about 4 years on the commercial team of The Independent newspaper. That's right, you heard me correctly. I worked for 4 years at a national newspaper and I sort of fell into the job. I panicked when I finished university that I needed to find a job, so I went online, Googled media job, applied to a load, got an interview pretty quickly, and before I knew it, I was employed and I wasn't entirely sure what I was supposed to be doing. Commercial team, by the way, is just a fancy way of saying getting people to put advertisements in newspaper and then deciding where those advertisements go. I actually worked there for 2 years and then took 2 other jobs in quick succession, one for an arts jobs board and one for this people that sort of worked on behalf of the Commonwealth Secretariat, but really it was just sort of a seedy sales job, so I got out of there quickly. And then I went back to The Independent. I hope you're keeping up because this is far more convoluted than I thought it was going to be. Now, one of the things I did quite a lot when I was younger was fundraising for charities, and I'd actually gone to South Africa. When I talked about traveling earlier on, that's where I went, and I worked in a school over there in South Africa, and I always wanted to go back to doing this sort of work. So when I was at The Independent, I made a really mad and really rash decision to just quit my job and go and volunteer in Zimbabwe. It was development work for a charity that worked with people that are affected by HIV and AIDS, and this was one of the best, most rewarding jobs I have ever had. I really enjoyed this particular project, so much so that I was there for 3 months. I came back to the UK and I applied to go back again, but this time as a team leader for half a year. And amazingly, I got that role, but I had to wait a little while before I could go back out to Zimbabwe. So to bridge that gap, I started working in my local gastropub. Serving and waiting, baby. I think everyone should do this job at some point in time. And I did eventually become a shift supervisor at that particular job, not because I think I was particularly good, but because they didn't think I would steal from them when I cashed up at the end. And then eventually I went back to Zimbabwe as a team leader, and that trip ended up being super important because that is where I met Charlie. And the jobs have continued to be kind of weird, you know, Disney Store, punts, newspapers, Zimbabwe. I went back to the pub for a little bit before Charlie and I decided we wanted to work a ski season in the French Alps. So we went out there and became chalet hosts, chefs, cleaners, drivers, basically any jobs that guests needed us to do over the course of a season. And whilst we were out there, we were looking for the next thing we wanted to do, and we decided in that moment we wanted to live in Australia for a year. So whilst we were still out there in France, we booked tickets to go to Australia. It's sort of been a mad existence, really, now that I'm reflecting on it. When I was in Australia, I ended up working for a company that put on conferences. Why? And then after the year away, we got back and we decided, no, we want to do another ski season now. Let's go back to the French mountains. And it was somewhere in that year or two that I discovered YouTube and I started doing my side hustle of videos. I still remember some of those early videos, particularly my first one, and they were not good. When I got back from that second ski season, I ended up working for NCS, which stands for the National Citizenship Service, which is a youth engagement program here in the UK. And I ended up working that job on and off on 3 separate occasions, I think it was, including once for Cambridge United, which was kind of cool. My office was a football stadium. I eventually got a job for Mind, which is a mental health charity here in the UK. And all the time I was doing YouTube in the background, skills I was able to use at Mind. And this takes us to the end of 2019 and the beginning of 2020, a period of time where Charlie and I decided that we were going to quit everything because we wanted to go and travel the world again. So we quit our job and yeah, COVID happened. So I didn't really have much choice but to work on YouTube videos. And yeah, that brings us sort of up to date. I've been making videos and doing odd editing jobs ever since then, and I'll be completely honest with you, I really love what I do now, making videos and editing and being creative. This is one of the more fulfilling things I've done. But despite being 33, despite having tried so many different things, I still don't actually know what the final goal is for me. And for a long time, this really stressed me out. This idea of where am I going? What am I doing? What is the final destination? Until I realized that no one around me seemed to know the answer to that either. It was then that I realized that I'd found something that I really loved doing, so I'm just gonna keep doing that. And if something else takes my fancy in the meantime, that's okay. I can go off and I can try different things. Keep trying things until you figure out what it is that you like. But this isn't meant to be a preachy video. This is just meant to be a rundown of all the jobs I've had. I've had a lot of jobs. I still don't really know where I'll be in 5 years' time. All I really know is that I gotta make money, and if I can enjoy the way I'm making money, that would be brilliant. Where that puts me in 5 years' time, who knows? But I do know where I'll be tomorrow. I'll be right here, which is where I will see you next. But until then, don't be a dick.